Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us here today to talk about the ACM Chicago program. I'm Julie Lucas and this is Katie Rose Brosnan. We're the campus outreach coordinators here at the Associated College of the Midwest, and we're excited to introduce you to Ms. Dorothy Bird, the director of the ACM Chicago program, Julia Lasher, the administrative assistant and internship associate, and also two of our Chicago program alumni, Alexis Puzo and Ty Watley. So Ms. Dorothy and Julia will be talking a little bit about the different internship opportunities. Alexis and Ty will then talk a little bit about their experience on the program, and then Katie Rose and I will give you some more information about next steps to take if you are interested in applying. And after that, we'll have a live question and answer session, so you'll be able to ask us anything you'd like. And if you'd like to ask us anything in the meanwhile, you can just write those out in the chat box. So thanks so much.
Great. I want to start off by talking a little bit about the ACM Chicago program. First of all, it's important for you all to know that we are an experiential program, and we are a program where students come to the city of Chicago to not just learn about the city, but to experience the city. So when you come to Chicago, you get 4 credits for being on our program, and you get 1 credit for 2 seminars. So we currently have 2 seminars. One is on human rights and social justice. The other one is on business and entrepreneurship. You also get a credit for an independent study project, and this is a project that you choose. It is done so that you can study something that you feel passionate about, something that really interests you. And then the 4th component is what we are really here to talk about today, which is the internship component. It is something that I think students are very interested in when they apply for this program. It is an opportunity for you to get a real life work experience. So our students are placed throughout the city of Chicago. All majors come on our program, and we have internships in all different areas. And it is our goal to make sure that you do meaningful work while you are here on the Chicago program. So no one is getting coffee and making copies solely as part of their internship. There is always meaningful work that is done. It is our goal to make sure that it is a good match between the students' needs and skills and what they want to learn in the agency and what they need.
So the internships kind of fall into these 3 tracks, and this is kind of more for organizational purposes for this PowerPoint than any kind of real categories that we put anyone into. So these categories broadly defined include the arts, human rights and social justice, and business and entrepreneurship, which are also kind of the focus of the program. So the internship process, this is how we kind of work to match you with an internship organization. The first thing that happens is we send out an internship questionnaire about 3 months or so before you come to the program, and this is a Google form where we ask you just some pretty basic questions about what you're looking to get out of your internship experience, what you're interested in, and then we have you look through past internships that students have done and select some that are of interest to you. After that, we ask you to send us your resume, and Dorothy and I look it over, and if we can make any suggestions about how to improve your resume, we will ask you to do that. And then once we have your edited resume, that kind of serves as your calling card for when we're searching for internship sites where you will send that out to your potential supervisors. And so after we have your resume, then we will do Skype meetings with Ms. Dorothy or I, where we'll go over some of the answers that you put down in your questionnaire and get more of a sense of what would be a good fit for you for your internship. And then we will start reaching out on your behalf to these internship sites, connect you with a potential supervisor where you'll have a phone interview with them before you come to Chicago, or if you're in the Chicago area, a lot of times students will come in and do an in-person interview. And once everyone gets to the program, everyone has an in-person interview as well before they start their internship. And then you also fill out a contract with your internship supervisor, which basically lays out what your duties are going to be, expectations for both you and the internship supervisor, and then we'll turn that in, and then your internship will begin.
So we want to just kind of run you through some of the internship placements that we have in the 3 different broad categories that we discussed. And so the first category is the arts. And the first place we want to talk about is Intuit, the Center for Intuitive and Outsider Art. And this is an agency that is really designed to showcase art that is done by people who are self-taught artists. They are people who demonstrate little influence by traditional art movements. They are people who are motivated by their own passion and their own interests, and they design art in a way that they feel that they need to design it in order to express what they need to have expressed. So we have had students who have been placed here in the past, and they have worked with curators of different exhibits. They have assisted with the installation of exhibits and the takedown of those installations. They have worked in the marketing departments, done grant research, and also in collections management.
Another example in the arts category is a Red Orchid Theater, which is an independent ensemble theater. They do both new works and old that they perform with. And our student that interned there last a few semesters ago actually worked as a stage manager for one of their productions. So this is, even though this was a very kind of time-intensive internship, she had to work a lot with the schedule, but she still made it work and was able to be like a really integral part of this production, which was a really great experience for her. Other students that have worked in theaters have also worked in marketing departments, with donor research, and membership. So there's a lot of opportunities in this kind of area.
Young Chicago Office is another one of our internship sites, and they are really well known around the city and also around the country for something called Louder Than a Bomb, which is a spoken word competition that happens every year. It is currently in progress right now, and we will have the finals at the middle to end of March. So Louder Than a Bomb, their mission is to cultivate young voices through writing, publication, and performance education. And so Young Chicago Office is the umbrella organization for this group. They work with young artists who are interested in hip-hop, who are also interested in poetry, and in journalism. They have weekly writing workshops, they do poetry workshops, open mics on a regular basis, and our student who was placed here worked to promote the Louder Than a Bomb series, and she also did a lot of interviewing and workshops for the organization.
So the next category that we're going to talk about is human rights and social justice focused internships.
So Cabrini Green Legal Aid is one of the organizations that we wanted to highlight. We have had students there for the last probably couple of years, and these students are working with this organization whose goal is to provide civic and legal services to people who are low to moderate income. Primarily, these are people who are returning citizens, people who have been incarcerated, who are returning to their homes and their home communities, and they want to provide services that will help them lead successful and productive lives once they are back in their home environment.
And the executive director of Cabrini Green Legal Aid is a Chicago Program alum. Yeah, so the next place we're going to talk about is Erie Neighborhood House, or La Casa Erie. And so Erie Neighborhood House has 2 locations, one on the near west side of Chicago and the other on the north side. And so they're very much like a family-oriented nonprofit organization. They have a lot of different programs oriented towards their community. They are located in communities of primarily people of Latino or Latino descent. So students that have worked there have they have a lot of youth programs that are especially great. So they worked with restorative programming in community elementary schools. Another student also created domestic violence awareness events as part of her internship. And this is a really great organization to really get involved with the community and understand what's going on in the city.
We currently have 2 students who are placed at this agency. One is working in the English as a Second Language program and working with people who want to become citizens. And so she's working in the citizenship program. The other one is working in the family program, working with youth leadership. One North Side, I think we should really vet. We should let Alexis talk about this. Tell us, Alexis, what do they do?
Well, One Northside is a community organization that is based in Uptown, and they work with a bunch of Northside neighborhoods it's a community organizing organization, so basically they work to bring community members together to advocate for issues that are important to them. So when I interned there, I was in the affordable housing unit, so we talked about single room occupancy hotels and how to make sure that low-income people can stay in the neighborhood that they live in and not be displaced by, new up-and-coming market rate businesses that want to take over the old buildings. But they also do work around violence prevention and health, mental health, all advocacy work. There's opportunity to likely talk with aldermen and people who are involved in the legal issues, also a lot of public action, and it was a really interesting place to intern at.
So one of the people who, the person being highlighted in this slide is who's holding the sign, Educate, Don't Incarcerate, which is one of their newer campaigns to stop the school-to-prison pipeline, is Jody Kretzmann, and Jody Kretzmann is one of the founders of the Chicago program. And he is also one of the pioneers of asset-based community development.
What is asset-based community development?
Well, I can let you talk about that. Why don't you tell us what that is?
Oh man, I just got dragged. So Katie President, I'm also an alum of the Chicago program, and so there are a number of us here in this room. And so the Chicago program takes with asset-based community development as the framework for the entire program, and that's the way of training students and folks from all walks of life to look at communities, whether it's their own communities, whether it's communities that they are visiting as a guest, to look at them and try to understand them for their strengths and based on their strengths, rather than folks who go in particularly to neighborhoods or communities that are not their own and only look at challenges or what they would call like deficiencies. So ways that I know in my neighborhood that I look at strengths are the network of faith leadership, the network of folks who are really invested in their children's educations and really active around school board engagement and things like that. And so strengths can also be access to transit and the ways that affordable housing, like Alexis was saying, gets shaped. And so within the Chicago program, students learn how to apply the sort of lens of analysis to look at themselves and other groups and other communities around the world, and sort of say, like, all right, if we're going to identify these strengths, then let's build upon those strengths instead of just focusing on people's challenges. Was that good? It's been a while since I was in school.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about internships in the business and entrepreneurship category. The first one we want to highlight is the Six Corners Association. So Six Corners Association is located in a neighborhood on the northwest side of Chicago called Portage Park. And basically they are Their goal is to really help the commercial district in this neighborhood be a vibrant place, be a place for artists, things like that. So they work a lot with community involvement, recruiting local businesses to come to their area, and promotions. So students that have worked at Six Corners Association have worked to organize meetings between community leaders, other special events. They've written press releases to kind of get the word out about the organization and what businesses under it are doing, working with small businesses and recruiting community partners. And the executive director of the Six Corners Association is also a Chicago program alum. And so 220 Blue is interesting. This is a philanthropic fashion company, and their thing is they work to make high-end luxury jackets and blazers, and then proceeds from the sale of these garments go towards helping girls in Kenya buy school uniforms so that they can attend school. So a lot of schools in Kenya are free, but in order to attend, students have to have a uniform, and a lot of them are barred from attending because they can't afford the uniform. So this company is really striving to help change that by selling expensive garments to us and then using that money to send girls to school. So our students that have worked there have worked really more on the fashion side of things as well as the business side. They've worked on sample production and materials. They've worked with fabric and trim vendors and done inventory and sales tracking, and also helping with fittings and photo shoots. So really every aspect of the fashion business is something that you can be involved in if you work at this company.
Our next one is ICNC, the Industrial Council of Near West Chicago, and this is a small business incubator. It currently houses about 110 new companies, and their goal is to assist these businesses to become successful by providing them with whatever services that they need in order to grow their business. And so a lot of work that they do is around market research. They also do counseling on international trade laws. They talk a lot about website development, do workshops on copyright and trademark. So it is a full-service organization that serves many different types of businesses. Our student who was placed there last semester worked with a new program that was really designed to attract people who wanted to become emergency medical technicians. And so what our student did was the student recruited female head of households who had incomes between $10,000 and $40,000, and in this program they were not only recruited, they were assisted in preparing their application, given information about how to test well, and then taken through some of the physical exercises that would be necessary for them to be successful in their completion of the program. This organization, ICNC's executive director, it also has was at one time an adjunct professor who taught our business and entrepreneurship seminar. It's important to note that all of the people who teach on the ACM Chicago program are either activists or practitioners, and they bring their life experience into the classroom.
So the last one I wanted to highlight is called Cloud Spotter. So this is an example of kind of the tech startup industry that is happening in Chicago right now. So Cloud Spotter is a tech startup, and their thing is that they help connect people with photos of them that are in the cloud, so you don't have to search for your photos. They just find them for you, which this woman's very excited about, apparently. So a student that interned here worked on coordinating events both in the office and the field. Cloud Spotter goes out to a lot of events to help promote their product, basically. Done business development and company outreach. They've worked to develop communication strategies and social media marketing campaigns. They've created marketing materials, like physical marketing materials, and also done market research. And so this organization is a really great way to kind of become immersed in the tech startup world in Chicago.
And now we're really, really excited that we have two alum who are here with us who can talk about their internship experience. And we might have several alum who are joining us remotely who can answer any questions that you might have. And so we're really excited that you get to speak to the alum themselves and feel free to ask them the questions about what it was like in terms of the internship component, but also if you want to ask them in general questions about what it was like to be a student on the program, this could be your opportunity also.
We are looking to see if the folks have any questions, but in the meantime, Alexis, you sort of talked about your internship experience, but Taggart, you did not. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you did. We're going to put you on the hot seat now.
Sure. So my internship was actually at Northside Community Federal Credit Union, which is like a nonprofit bank. Since I specified that, I actually told the internship coordinator at the time that I really want an internship in the finance domain in Chicago, and she would actually work really hard to get me that internship. And the project I was assigned during an internship was to develop like a it was actually to develop like a workshop on retirement investment. So I knew nothing about retirement at the time, and wasn't even thinking about it. So I had to do like research from ground up about like how do you prepare for retirement, like the entire U.S. retirement system. And that was actually a really like a thorough learning experience for me. And I actually forgot to talk about what credit union does. I'm like, that credit union does. So the Northside Credit Union basically it's a nonprofit bank. So we people in the community who are eligible to join the credit union as a member, like a stakeholder in the bank, they will be able to do like basic banking services at the credit union, so like opening a checking account, saving account, and basically deposit and withdraw monies. And they're also be able to, they can also get like free financial counseling services from housing counselors at the credit union. And I was mainly working with housing counselors at the time. That was why I was assigned with a retirement investment project.
So what do you do now?
Actually, I go to graduate school at university. So I was in I studied economics in undergrad, and I'm kind of like digging deeper into the econometrics side, and now I'm in the predictive analytics program at the university. And I work at Digital Youth Network as a data scientist.
How about you, Alexis? What are you doing now?
Right now I'm also a graduate student. I go to the University of Chicago School of Social Service Administration. So in undergrad my major was in gender studies, and I wanted to kind of further the knowledge I learned there and bring it to a more practical level as a social worker. Along with my graduate studies, I am the membership associate at Intuit, the first place that Ms. Dorothy talked about. And I am an intern at Chicago Foundation for Women, so I help with the grant making and the programs. So the Kinsey Industrial Institute, we're a funder of the EMT program Ms. Dorothy was talking about.
Oh,
Full circle.
Yes, we're going to have to go and see if we can let Sam talk, because right now all of you all are muted, and he would not be able to participate if he was able to join us. He's not there to tell you what he's up to. Okay. Gotcha. I think that it was not me. But Claire, it looks like, Carly, oh my goodness, Carly, you might be able to speak if you wanted to talk a little bit about your internship experience. We think that you were unmuted now.
Absolutely. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
We are able to hear you. You're a little quiet at the moment.
Great.
Definitely hear you.
Okay, I will do my best here. Is this better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Carly Taggart. I went through the Urban Studies program in 2009, which I'm realizing was 8 years ago, and that seems hard to believe, but nonetheless, I've stayed connected to a lot of folks from this program, Dorsey included, and it's great to just come back and talk a little bit. So I worked at a social, a nonprofit that was focused on school reform, and it was an advocacy organization. So while I was there, I did school reform research and advocated for policy initiatives that were effective best practices for students. So I wanted to talk about some of the benefits of that experience for me. You know, now being 8 years out, I can sort of see the impact that it's had on me. And so there are essentially 4 things that I want to talk a little bit about. So social justice is a job, which seems, you know, what does that mean? So the fact that I was able to get a look into how I could do social justice for a job was actually very significant. I was a junior in college at the time. I didn't know what was going to happen after that. And that really gave me an opportunity to articulate for myself viable job opportunities in the nonprofit sector and the social justice space. The second thing was an academic benefit. So in my senior year, after I did the Urban Studies program, I was required to write a final project. I was an American Studies major, and so the school reform research that I did actually served as an amazing platform and starting point to understand the nuances and the impact that school reform has on Chicago children. So it was a really practical look in that then I could overlay with sociological and political frameworks that allowed me to complete this paper and gave a lot of practical and academic opportunities to see how those things connect. The third thing is that it was the first opportunity I had to evaluate my strengths and weaknesses in a professional setting. So at that juncture, I sort of knew that I was good at articulating my passion for social justice issues, but I learned that I was less good at backing that up with data. So I was given a really wonderful framework through ACM, I think, to have productive conversations about growth areas for me. And I learned that, you know, the value of applying a quantitative lens to social justice issues, and that was remarkably beneficial for me. Then lastly, I just want to mention my work today. I've worked at a couple of different organizations since I was a part of the program 8 years ago, but today I am actually at an organization called ALSO, which offers violence prevention and intervention direct services and consulting for other nonprofits and government agencies. And I was directly connected to this organization through my network that I built during Urban Studies. So it's had an incredibly long-lasting effect on my career to date. I feel like my nonprofit perspective has really grown, as well as my general perspective on work in Chicago specifically, but also urban areas broadly from this program. And I'm now pursuing an MBA at Northwestern's Kellogg School of Management. So I will be focused on social impact, and I hope to build capacity for nonprofits and other social impact entities to maximize impact on society. So really quickly, just in summary, it gave me direct experience in the nonprofit sector. It gave me a basis for academic research. It gave me a professional context to evaluate my strengths and areas for growth. And it directly relates to what I'm doing today. So I can draw a really direct line from my internship experience to now.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
There were a couple of questions on there, but Carly, I was so glad that you brought up the sort of pivot and expanded awareness you had when you got back on campus, and I'm going to make the two alumni here talk about that really fast, just because I know that that's a really common theme across all off-campus study, but since there is such a huge emphasis in the Chicago program on experiential learning, I think that oftentimes then we go back to campus with just like drastically increased capacities, and that can look really different for folks when they get back. So if you guys want to talk about what you did, like still when you were a student, but immediately after the Chicago program, and then we've got a couple questions from the crowd.
I'm trying to think about how to answer that
I think
question.
I'm wrong of stuff.
So thinking about what we did, so being energized after the program for me, being able to be involved on the community level at a time where I wasn't before, it really inspired me to want to make some change on the campus that I lived in. So something I did was I joined more leadership positions in different clubs, and then I was really interested in continuing my civic engagement. So I got a job at a local domestic violence center. So I got to work with clients and help them as they're, moving from an abusive situation to have agency and control over their own lives. And I feel like I learned some of that through my time here in the Chicago program, learning about activism, learning from my internship about activism and how the voices of clients, they know what they need and how can we support them. So for me, it was a catalyst to be able to kind of learn what kind of work I wanted to do. And so I was able to bring that to campus and start doing that work, and which has now helped me get to the career opportunities I have now.
So, I did a lot of stuff. So I was in the program when I was a junior. So in a fall semester. So when I returned, it was a spring semester, and I found that there was an organization in my school. It's called Enactus, which is like an international organization actually. They do a lot of like social entrepreneurship projects around the campus and the community. So I joined the organization and initiated more like a community-based environment-related project. But at the same time, I was like running around the campus asking people if we had like workshops on like helping students to understand how they're going to prepare for retirement after they graduate. And that's what I worked on in the internship. And then apparently there was nothing like that. And when I started my senior year at Ripon, I took over the leadership for the Enactus, and a librarian at Ripon Library approached me, and she asked me if I wanted to start like a financial workshop on campus together. And I was like, yes, I have a lot of materials. I can start right away. And so we actually started the workshop. And so the librarian, she and I, we developed a 10-week, was it 10-week? I think, yeah, a 10-week financial workshop. We call it Money Fitness. So we cover like budgeting, like from budgeting, like how do you, like what kind of bank accounts are out there. So because most of college students, surprisingly, only know that they're checking and saving. They don't know they're like CDs and like other type of saving methods that like are out there. So we cover a lot of topics in terms of like financial product. We also cover topics in like retirement investment. So like that was my like the biggest initiative that I had ever taken in my life at the time. Yeah, it was all inspired by the ACM program actually.
So we have a couple of questions that I think I can answer. And the first question was about, are our internships paid? So it's important that you all know that all of the internships on the ACM Chicago program are unpaid internships, and you receive academic credit. And so we have no paid internships. They're all unpaid, and they all are set up that way so that we can stress the academic part of the internship and make sure that it is very, very structurally sound in terms of our academic components. So students are required, once they are on an internship placement, to do a contract, to do a set of learning goals, They also are required to lead a site visit where they talk about their plans for the semester and what they've achieved so far and what they want to achieve. There are 3 workshops that are required for the internship component, and so there is a strong reflection part of the internship. The second question that people had was about hours, and so students are required to work a minimum of 150 hours for the semester, which comes down to 15 hours a week. And even though most students work more than that, that is the minimum that they are required. So I guess if you all want to talk about kind of how you all spread those hours out, that would be helpful.
Well, I know for me, I generally work 2 days a week, so I do 16 hours a week, but if there was an event to go to, maybe like a Friday night, you know, it would be fine to not come into work one day and to go to that event, do that public action, and then that counts. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Well, since I was in like a financial institute, my hours were more like fixed. So my day started at 10 a.m. and ended like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. However, toward the end of the semester, because I developed a workshop, so I had to present it, right? So I'm actually putting extra time and presented the workshop from like 5:30 to 7 p.m. But it was like one time. So that was like a real an internship that has a lot of things for me to learn. So at work, I didn't really spend a lot of time, you know, researching, and learning the materials for my workshop. I actually attended a lot of like financial counseling sessions from my supervisors and colleagues. So most of my time at work were like learning financial counseling aspect of my internship. But I spent like 2 hours maximum outside of my internship to learn and like research and develop my workshop.
My internship way back in 2011 was with the Chicago Public Schools Office of Service Learning, and so because I was working with the school system, because I was working with students, my hours would be sort of adjusted based on that. So when we were doing after-school activities, like that might go till 6:30 or 7, then that would move my hours accordingly. I did a lot of coordinating volunteer and service opportunities for students, and so would occasionally get a chance to go along with them, which was really fun. And so that would, in the same way, I had a somewhat unique situation because I did an independent study project that was very closely linked with my internship. I got very interested in college access and how folks, when you're the first person in your family who's ever gone to college, particularly from within the Chicago public school system, how do you understand FAFSA and the college application process? And so I, similarly, you made a workshop presentation, and so that was a lot of my time outside of my internship that was based solely for that independent study, but it was based entirely on things that I had learned and connections I had made through my internship project, or internship class. And so that it was flexible, but that certainly added on stuff towards the end of the term.
And I also wanted to add, although the internships are unpaid, there is the opportunity to work as a student assistant. So there you can be earning a stipend and also gaining work experience, so that's an opportunity that you could look into as well.
And yeah, I also wanted to add that some students who, after the semester is over, especially if it's in the spring and their internships, I've asked them to stay on through the summer, and then they sometimes can be, get stipends or hourly pay from the internship side. But that it's very dependent on who you're working with, of course, but also an option.
We had a couple other questions come in while we were talking.
So one question is about the transfer of credit for the internship. And so I just want to talk a little bit about that. It's one of the things that we did on the ACM Chicago program is we surveyed the schools to find out what would be needed in order for students to get credit on their campuses, and we developed our internship component around those requirements. And so what happens is that your internship site and this component gives you 50% of the points needed for your grade, and the other 50% comes from the academic part of the internship component, which involves the reflection papers and the workshop attendance and participation. The second question was about specifically Erie Neighborhood House that we discussed, and the person was interested in knowing if you could work with children and adults. So currently how it is set up, and most of the time how it is set up, is that you pick a program within the agency that you are interested in working with, and we have you meet with the people who are running that particular program, and if it is a good fit, that is the program where you are placed for the 15 weeks. So you do have the opportunity to work with children if you would like, or with adults if you would like, but you don't tend to split your time between two different programs within the agency.
The last question that we had here was about, as they keep coming in, this is a semester program, so because we are offering courses in addition to the internships, and it's part of a whole semester of off-campus learning that is a cohesive sort of unit, these are only fall or spring semester programs. We do have one spring trimester option for schools that are on a quarter system, where those folks would come and start attending the program in a week or two here, so mid-March, and go into the summer. And but those spots are generally only taken by students whose college schedule is set up that way. And then the fees for the transfer of credit. So this is something that depends on the school. So for the 14 colleges of the ACM, and for any non-ACM school which is approved the ACM Chicago program, students do not need to pay to get their official transcript from our school record or anything like that. There's an agreement that those schools have that recognizes, this is a type of learning that we want to support, and so it is considered a full course. I got full course credit. I was not going to an ACM school, but I was going to a school that had a long-standing relationship with this program, and so it counted. I was able to sign up for my courses as though I was still on campus even. Part of that, though, depends for lots of schools have different policies around off-campus study in general, and so sometimes your school might assess a fee for studying off-campus, and that would be independent from the fee of getting the transfers to credit, that to count for credit. That might just be a school policy, and so that actually leads us quite nicely into our next steps here. Because part of that involves talking to your school's off-campus study office. So those folks will refer you sometimes to both your advisor, folks in the financial aid office, that we encourage any student who's thinking of studying off-campus to be speaking with all of the above so that you can plan your time out accordingly. Other things, we are still accepting applications for the fall semester, and those will be on a rolling basis. Our deadline's around March 15th, but because the Chicago program generally does not involve any sort of visa changes for students, we are able to accept through March 30th.
Yes. And your colleges all have an application for you to fill out. And in addition to that, we have the ACM application. We would also need your 2 recommendations, a transcript and campus approval. And then once we have that, we would be all set to send that over to the review team. So I think right now we can actually open it up to live Q&A. If any of you guys would like to ask any questions, you can unmute yourselves.
Or we can unmute.
We can unmute you, actually.
Yes, sorry.
And feel free to ask any of us anything you'd like.
As we are unmuting. Bruce, I know that you had your hand raised. It looks like you're for ages. So if you did want anything to share, we are unmuting folks. And you are absolutely free to mute yourself back again if you so desire. But if you did have any questions live for any of us here as well, we can do that. To ask questions if you need to. If not, we are all available. Well, at least those of us who work here at the ACM. I'm not going to leave you guys on the hook. All of our email addresses and information is found on the ACM website, and we are happy to speak with any folks who have questions after the fact.
Guys have anything else for the?
I guess I would like to ask the alum if there's anything that you think that people who might be considering the ACM Chicago program should know. Any final comments?
Or advice you have for your students? Well, for me, I guess advice would be explore your neighborhood. So if you come here, I think it's really important to spend time in the neighborhood you're living. Go to any events, just get out there and do things. I think that's where a lot of the learning happens is, you know, you as an individual going out to a community and becoming a community member. And I think that'll make your internship experience even richer because you'll have that personal experience.
Well, I agree with Alexis. You just go to as many events as possible. There's free food there, so that's one of the reasons. Also, like I was in the entrepreneurship on the business side of the program, so like network with as many people as possible. Because I probably made like 300 connections when I was in Chicago in 3 months, right? Because it was one of the homework assignment we got actually to network with 3 people, but I turned into 300. And then and then those connections are really helpful after I graduate because I moved to Chicago, and then I actually got an internship through one of the connections I got, and there was an interview involved. She asked me if I wanted to work on a project. I said, sure. Internship started.
Well, great. Well, Katie Rose and I will be reaching out to you this week. If you have any questions, you can write back to us about the application process, about the program. And thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you all.
Thank you.